All right, welcome back to, I think it's number 5 in my bookshelf tour. Uh, we're just not gonna. My bookshelves are just jumbled, so I'll pull things off the shelf. They're not gonna be in alphabetical order. Well, sort of. But let's start off with George Eliot, Middlemarch. I haven't read it. I have the book though, but I haven't read it. Great Victorian novelist. I read a lot of Anthony Trollope at the moment through Steve Donohue's influence. I'm gonna have to pick up some George Eliot. Very intimidating writer to me, though. Really, I've read the amount of yards of Anthony Trollope I've read. I should really get myself into some George Eliot as well. Um, we have got here, let's do a big old swack. I've got my Alan Dean Foster Spellsinger collection here, which are a bunch of fun fantasy novels from the 80s, which I may not have actually, or 80s or 90s, which I may have not actually read since then, but I have such fond memories of them that I actually kept them. Musician John, I think it's John Foster or something like that. He comes, John Torrance? I don't know. He gets pulled in from the real world into this fantasy world, which is peopled with a whole bunch of anthropomorphic animals, and has turns out he's a spell singer as a musician. He can he sings songs, actually oftentimes contemporary songs of our world, but adapts them into magic. They do magic, and has many fun adventures that way. They're very fun books. We've got my couple of Karen Joy Fowler's, Sarah Canary and Artificial Things. I've actually read, I think Sarah Canary, I think, is the one that I've read. If it's the one that is in, yes, the Washington Territories in winter in 1873. It has a small bit of kind of sci-fi, I believe, thing into it, but it's actually a lot about kind of women in the kind of the Western territories, making their way through with a mysterious woman who has an interesting background. Yeah, Karen Joy Fowler, someone I've read a lot of her novellas. She did the Dream Quest of Velvet Bow, which is a rewriting of an H.P. Lovecraft book, which is is it that one? Of an H.P. Lovecraft story, which was just like amazing, as good or better than the story itself, and also just sort of stands apart on its own. This, I think, Artificial Things might actually be some short fiction by her, which I should really read because I really do enjoy her short fiction. She also did the Jane Austen book club, which may come up in here. I think I may actually have a bunch. Oh yeah, okay. Here, let's just bang these out. I bought the Jane Austen book club, which I think she's best known for. It's turned into a movie. I should actually really read the book. And I think at the same time I also bought Wit's End, which is another of her books, which, lovely books. Haven't read them. That's me. That's on me. We've got, I don't know why we have another Samuel R. Delany. I'll just put that over there. Penelope Fitzgerald, the Blue Flower, which is a tiny, thin book, which is, I think, romantic German poet. But just amazing incorporation of what's probably an entire library worth of knowledge distilled into a tiny book where she doesn't bother to. She only slightly kind of evokes all the details, but doesn't let it get in the way of telling amazing story. I've got my George MacDonald Fraser collection, which is mostly it's the Flashman books. The bully in Tom Hughes' Tom Jones School Days, grown up for George MacDonald Fraser and turned into a coward racist who always ends up as the getting taken for a hero quite mistakenly. He's craven and conniving, but he's also very quick-witted, and you can't help but also root for him. But it also is a good thing where you have a despicable person at the center of the book, so you don't kind of sugarcoat all the racism and terrible sexism of the period, which so often historical novels of a certain ilk do. But they also just tell really good stories. So yes, that's all them. And oh, here's The General Dance at Dawn, which I believe is a memoir written in the first person and reading authentically. It purports to record episodes in the life of a young officer newly commissioned into the Highland Regiment after service in the ranks at the very end of the war. 25 years have not dimmed Mr. Fraser's recollection of those hectic days of soldiering. One takes leave of his characters with real regret, a real and grateful regret. So, yeah, I'll have to read that at some point. That sounds like a fun memoir. Speaking of, I've got Tom Jones, which I don't think it's Tom Jones. Maybe I've got my thing. That's Henry Fielding, Tom Jones Norton collection, which I'll have to read at some point. I love Norton collections because they've got so many kind of end notes in them and stuff like that. That's the second edition of Fielding's perennial popular novel, which is, it's got a whole bunch of stuff basically about all the, it's got stuff by Samuel Johnson, Samuel Richardson, and the Hill sisters continue to provide good historical context to the book, which can be very useful in there. We've got Paul DeFilippo, which is another case of these things of, I think I read, what did I read of him? I don't even have it here. Yeah, don't even have it here. A collection of a trio of novels a trio of novels. I was getting so tired. A trio of novels of novellas that were all Victorian kind of sci-fi punk book novels, novellas put together, and I just really loved them. And they had all the bizarre racist science of the time, as well as just kind of fabulous descriptions and stuff like that. I really enjoyed them. They caught my thing. So I got a whole ton of his books, and then I never read them. I just put them on my shelves, and I went crazy. And I think they're all collections of stories. I don't think he's a big novel guy. I think he wrote a whole bunch of stories. And yeah, again, I should really read them. Have I? No, because there's always something new. And I mean, this is the part of the shame of reading, of looking through my bookshelves that I want to keep private, is that it's here. And here we get to some stuff that are have been read and reread, which are from childhood, are John D. Fitzgerald's The Great Brain books, which are I think they're all kind of Utah Mormon kind of. I can't remember if they are Mormon or if it was just John D. Fitzgerald was Mormon, but of this brilliant little kid, basically kind of a Tom Sawyer type, who is always coming up with schemes to get rich, and all narrated by his younger brother. So you get The Great Brain, More Adventures of the Great Brain, Little Brain. And so here you can tell these are the battered old ones. This is The Great Brain at the Academy, and just all the wonderful kind of just adventures of them, which I have such fond memories of. So fond that I bought new ones, even though I had really battered and old copies of the old ones. We've got a little bit of nonfiction mixed in, which is, well, it's not too inappropriate. It's E.M. Forrester's aspect of the novel, which I read probably more in my creative writing UVic days. Probably didn't take too much of it in. Probably could do with looking at it again to see if I would actually pick anything up from it, from the great writer. And then we've got my other great childhood favorite to end off this thing, which sadly I do not have my original copy of, which is Harriet the Spy by Louise Fitzhugh, which I am Harriet the Spy, I think. Harriet is kind of a shy, introverted girl who keeps a journal, diary, a spy journal, observing all her friends, recording all the kind of little details about them, all the nitpicky kind of all the things that she observes about them in a very kind of cold, ruthless kind of writerly eye. But the worst thing happens, and her book is discovered and read by the targets of her pen, and it does not. They are not happy. They are not happy with her, and it is It is just a wonderful, the world's most famous sixth grade spy. That obviously is very kind of more updated. And then there's this, which is it's the follow-up book, which is Sport, which was one of Harriet's friends, her best friend, Sport, which I do not remember at all. I do not remember at all. I would actually, I wonder if I even read it at the time. I would suddenly Sport inherits more than $20 million, but he and his father don't even have a chance to pay the bills before Sport's mother reappears in their lives, determined to get her hands on the money. She'll stop at nothing, not even kidnapping. Maybe I should, maybe I should read that if I haven't read it before. Maybe I read it at the time and it just fell out of my brain because I'm such the Harriet the Spy fan. All right. Well, that is one more shelf done. We'll skip all my graphic novels and comic books and climb high up there to get into what looks like GHs and such like that. GHJs and stuff. Oh, so much fun. All right. More book tour later.